I was stirring my third cup of coffee at Morrison's café, wondering how my marriage had become as cold as yesterday's leftovers, when she walked in. Tall, elegant, with the kind of confidence that screams money and power. She wore a tailored black coat that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. "Alex Foster?" she asked, sliding into the booth across from me without invitation. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. "Depends who's asking," I replied, my architect's eye automatically cataloging her expensive jewelry and perfect manicure. "I'm Olivia Stanton. Your wife, Natalie, is sleeping with my husband, Greg." The words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest, but I kept my expression neutral. 20 years of dealing with demanding clients had taught me to mask my emotions. "That's quite an accusation," I said, taking another sip of coffee. "Got any proof, or are we just sharing conspiracy theories today?" Olivia reached into her purse and pulled out a manila envelope. "Photos, hotel receipts, text messages. Your wife isn't very careful about covering her tracks." I opened the envelope with trembling fingers. The first photo showed Natalie and a tall, silver-haired man entering the Riverside Hotel downtown. The timestamp read last Tuesday, the same day she'd claimed to be working late on the Henderson wedding. "Greg Stanton," Olivia said, watching my face carefully. "CEO of Premier Events. Ring a bell?" It did. Natalie had mentioned her new boss several times, always with a little too much enthusiasm. "He's so inspiring," she'd gush. "Really knows how to motivate his team." I flipped through more photos. Natalie and Greg holding hands in his BMW, kissing in the parking garage of her office building. The final photo showed them entering a room at the Riverside, Greg's hand on the small of her back in a gesture that screamed intimacy. "How long?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. 3 months, maybe 4. I hired a private investigator when Greg started coming home smelling like her perfume. Olivia's voice was steady, but I caught the flash of pain in her green eyes. I set the photos down and looked at this stranger who'd just blown up my world. Why come to me? Why not just divorce him and take half his money? "Because I want more than money, Alex. I want them both to suffer the way we have. I want everyone in this town to know exactly what kind of people they are." Something in her tone made me lean forward. "What are you proposing?" "Partnership. You know Natalie's weaknesses. I know Greg's. Together we can destroy them both. Legally, financially, and socially." I thought about the past 6 months. Natalie's sudden interest in working late. Her new gym membership she never seemed to use. The way she'd started criticizing everything I did, from my job to my clothes to my friends. "My friend Matt always said she was too good for me," I muttered. "Matt's about to learn some interesting things about his precious Natalie," Olivia said with a cold smile. "Are you in?" I looked at the photos again, feeling something dark and angry unfurling in my chest. For 15 years, I'd been the devoted husband, working 60-hour weeks to pay for her dreams while she slowly erased me from her life. "What did you have in mind?" 3 days later, I sat in Olivia's downtown penthouse, surrounded by legal documents and surveillance photos. She'd hired Rachel Martinez, the city's most ruthless divorce attorney, who laid out our options with surgical precision. "Asset protection is priority 1, Rachel explained, spreading papers across Olivia's glass dining table. "Greg's been using company funds to pay for hotels and gifts. That's embezzlement. Natalie's been using your joint credit card for her affair expenses. We can freeze everything." "What about the social angle?" Olivia asked, pouring wine into crystal glasses. "Leave that to me," I said, thinking of Natalie's carefully cultivated image as the perfect wife and event planner. "She's got the Morrison Chamber of Commerce Gala next week. 500 of the city's most influential people." "Perfect," Olivia smiled. "Greg's supposed to be the keynote speaker." We spent hours planning every detail. Rachel would file divorce papers simultaneously, catching both cheaters off guard. I'd document everything in Natalie's home office: the burner phone she thought I didn't know about, the credit card statements, the love letters she'd stupidly printed out. "There's something else," Olivia said as Rachel packed up her briefcase. "Greg's been telling people you're an alcoholic. Says that's why Natalie's been so unhappy." The wine glass cracked in my grip. He what? Spreading rumors at the country club, making himself look like Natalie's savior, rescuing her from her drunk, unsuccessful husband. I felt my carefully controlled anger spike into rage. That bastard's never even met me. "He has now," Olivia said, showing me her phone. A photo of me leaving Morrison's café, looking haggard and exhausted. "He's been having you followed, too." That night, I confronted Natalie as she came home from another late meeting. "How was work, honey?" I asked from the kitchen, keeping my voice casual. "Exhausting. The Peterson anniversary is turning into a nightmare." She kicked off her heels and headed for the stairs. "I'm going to shower." "Greg keeping you busy?" She froze halfway up the steps. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Just wondering about your new boss. You talk about him a lot." "He's professional, Alex. Something you'd understand if you ever got promoted." The casual cruelty in her voice confirmed everything. This wasn't just an affair. She genuinely despised me. "I'm trying here, Nat. Maybe we could see a counselor?" She laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Counseling won't fix what's wrong with us. Some things are just broken beyond repair." She disappeared upstairs, and I heard the shower running. 20 minutes later, I heard her on the phone, voice low and intimate. "I can't wait to get out of here. No, he doesn't suspect anything. Soon, baby, soon." I gripped the kitchen counter until my knuckles went white. Soon, indeed. The next morning, while Natalie was at her yoga class, I executed Phase 1. Her home office yielded a treasure trove of evidence. The burner phone contained months of explicit texts. Her laptop had hotel confirmations, restaurant receipts, even photos of lingerie she'd bought for Greg. But the real bombshell was in her desk drawer, a lease agreement for a downtown apartment. She'd already signed it, planning to move in next month. I photographed everything and sent copies to Olivia. Her response was immediate. Game on. That afternoon, Matt stopped by with beer and gossip. "You look like hell, man," he said, settling into my living room recliner. "Everything okay with you and Nat?" "Why wouldn't it be?" "Come on, Alex. She's been acting weird at social stuff, distant, and she's lost weight, bought new clothes. Classic signs." I studied my oldest friend's face. "Signs of what?" "You know," he made a vague gesture. "Maybe she's just going through something. Women her age, they sometimes need excitement." "What kind of excitement, Matt?" He shifted uncomfortably. "Look, I'm not saying anything's wrong, but if it were me, I'd pay attention. Maybe step up my game a little." "Step up my game?" "You've gotten comfortable, buddy. Same job for 10 years, same routine, same everything. Natalie's a beautiful woman. She needs to feel appreciated." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "Are you saying this is my fault?" "I'm saying marriage takes work, from both people." After he left, I called Olivia. "My best friend just blamed me for my wife's affair." "Without knowing about the affair?" "He suspects something, and he's already decided I'm the problem." "Perfect. That makes what happens next even sweeter." "What happens next?" "Tomorrow night, the country club. Greg and Natalie will be there together, playing their roles as boss and employee. We're going to give everyone a show they'll never forget." I hung up and poured myself a scotch, thinking about Matt's words. Step up my game. The irony was beautiful. I was about to step up my game in ways he couldn't imagine. The Morrison Country Club's monthly mixer was in full swing when Olivia and I arrived separately. She looked stunning in a red dress that turned heads across the room. I wore my best suit and a smile that felt like broken glass. Natalie stood near the bar with Greg, laughing at something he'd whispered in her ear. She wore the black cocktail dress I'd bought her for our anniversary, the anniversary she'd forgotten last month. "Showtime," Olivia murmured, appearing at my elbow with 2 champagne glasses. We'd choreographed this carefully. Olivia would approach Greg first, playing the devoted wife. I'd engage Natalie in conversation, keeping her distracted. Then, we'd spring our trap. "Greg, darling." Olivia's voice carried across the room as she glided toward her husband. "I've been looking everywhere for you." Greg's face went pale, but he recovered quickly. "Olivia, I thought you were visiting your sister." "Change of plans, and you must be Natalie," she said, turning to my wife with a predatory smile. "I've heard so much about you." Natalie's eyes darted between Greg and Olivia, confusion flickering across her features. "All good things, I hope." "Oh, absolutely. Greg tells me you're very dedicated to your work." I stepped forward, extending my hand to Greg. "Alex Foster, Natalie's husband." Greg's handshake was limp, sweaty. "Nice to meet you." "Likewise. I've been eager to meet the man who's been keeping my wife so busy lately." The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Around us, other guests began to notice the strange dynamic, conversations quieting as people strained to listen. "Perhaps we should find somewhere more private to talk," Olivia suggested, her voice honey-sweet and deadly. "That's not necessary," Natalie said quickly. "We were just leaving." "Were you?" I asked. "That's funny, because the evening's just getting started." Matt appeared beside me, drink in hand, oblivious to the undercurrents. "Hey, buddy. Didn't expect to see you here." "Hi, Nat. You look great." "Thank you," Natalie replied, but her eyes were locked on Olivia, who was studying her like a scientist examining a particularly interesting specimen. "Matt, right?" Olivia said. "Alex has told me so much about you. His oldest friend." "That's right. Known this guy since college. Been through everything together." "Everything?" Olivia's eyebrows rose. "How loyal. Tell me, what do you think of Natalie's new job?" Matt glanced around the group, sensing something but not sure what. "It's great. She's really blossomed these past few months. More confident, happier." "Happier," I repeated. Interesting word choice. "Alex," Natalie said sharply, "can I speak with you privately?" "Actually, I think we're past private conversations," Olivia said, pulling out her phone. "In fact, I think it's time everyone knew exactly what's been making Natalie so happy." She tapped her screen, and suddenly, Natalie's voice filled the air, a recording from the burner phone. "I love you too, Greg. I can't wait to leave Alex and start our real life together." The color drained from Natalie's face. Greg looked like he might vomit. Around us, conversations stopped entirely as people turned to stare. "You recorded me?" Natalie whispered. "Oh, honey," Olivia laughed. "We did so much more than that." She swiped to the next screen. Photos of Natalie and Greg entering the Riverside Hotel, kissing in his car, holding hands at restaurants across town. Matt's drink slipped from his fingers, shattering on the marble floor. "Jesus Christ, Nat! What the hell?" "It's not what it looks like," Natalie said desperately. "Really?" I pulled out my own phone. "Because it looks like you've been planning to divorce me and move in with Greg next month. Here's the lease agreement you signed." The crowd around us had grown. I recognized faces from the Chamber of Commerce, the planning committee, Natalie's yoga class. Her carefully constructed reputation was crumbling in real time. "You had no right." Greg finally found his voice. "This is harassment." "Harassment?" Olivia's laugh was sharp as a blade. "You mean like telling everyone at the country club that Alex is an alcoholic? Like using company funds to pay for hotel rooms? Should I call your board of directors and share the receipts?" "You're both insane," Natalie hissed, but her voice shook. "Are we?" I asked. "Or are we just tired of being lied to, cheated on, and made fools of while you two play house with our money?" Matt stepped forward, his face flushed with anger. Alex, this is insane. You can't just ambush people like this. Can I? Where was this righteous indignation when you were telling me I needed to step up my game? When you were blaming me for her behavior? I didn't know. You didn't want to know. It was easier to assume I was the problem. The crowd pressed closer, phones out, recording everything. In the social media age, this would be all over town by morning. Please, Natalie grabbed my arm. Can we just go home and talk about this? I looked down at her hand on my sleeve, the same hand that had been all over Greg for months. Home? I said loud enough for everyone to hear. You mean the home you've been planning to abandon? The marriage you've been systematically destroying while I worked overtime to pay for your affair? Alex, please. No. I pulled away from her. I'm done. We're done. And now everyone knows exactly who you really are. Security appeared, drawn by the commotion. The country club manager hurried over, trying to restore order. I think you all need to leave, he said diplomatically. Gladly, Olivia said, linking her arm through mine. Our work here is done. As we walked toward the exit, I heard Matt calling my name, but I didn't turn around. Behind us, Natalie was crying, Greg was arguing with security, and the crowd was buzzing with excitement. Outside in the parking lot, Olivia squeezed my arm. Phase 2 complete. How do you feel? I looked back at the country club, where my old life was burning to ash, and smiled. Like I'm finally free.